Just been really looking forward to this parole hearing.
You
Ready to
got
get it started.
you got a parole hearing going on? What's going down?
That's what this is. That's what I was told. It was described. It looks like we were on a Skype parole hearing.
Hey, I like that it's up close and personal. I don't need all those gizmos and gadgets. I'm not trying to sell something all the time to everybody. You know what I mean?
No, definitely not.
Well, since we haven't talked in a little bit, and we know that comics broke me stuff was going around, I saw the tide turning and people were giving their positive interactions with pros as they were breaking in. And I know you've got a couple and I've got a couple, so I figured we could tell those stories. And I think you're a heck of a storyteller. So you want to start the floor with you want to open the break the ice with a little Liefeld story or what?
Yeah, that's where I met a lot of people in comics. Was on the Liefeld message boards. He had smartly cultivated an army of henchmen that would die for him, and
Liefeldian art.
I'm ride or die Liefeld, and he because we were all like such fanboys at the Chicago convention. I think it was the Wizard World at the time, I believe. Since he saw there were going to be a lot of board members there, he said, "Hey, if everyone comes out to eat, I'll buy you pizza." And it wasn't, like $1 slice kind of thing. He bought us some big pie,
Oh,
some of
you got
those Chicago, yeah, some Chicago deep dish pizzas.
oh, all nice. Did you get a
Uh,
slice? Did you get two slices? What'd you get?
honestly, I don't know that I ever told you this part. I didn't eat any. I was like, I don't know. In my head, I was all weirded out by it. Right? I felt like my mindset was if he sees me as a fan, he might not ever see me as a peer. So I didn't eat it. But there was this one guy, John Medic, MYT something. Anyway, that son of a gun ate like 6 slices, which is basically a whole pizza. And he was eyeballing more until we started giving him some shit about it. Or he probably would have eaten a pie and a half, dude. He'd have
So
put a lot of, that'll put a hurt on his bank account.
this is me when I was a kid. Since you got that nervous, couldn't eat in front of your heroes thing, there was this girl that everyone liked named Michelle Powers in school. And one day, randomly, she has to sit across from me at the lunch table, and my mom had packed me like a badass, like Little Debbie. You know those
Yeah.
Swiss rolls. I think she might have put 2 packs in there for her chunky little son. The bottom of the pack and never ate them, bro. I threw those away. Those I still regret throwing away those Little Debbies. I couldn't be the fat kid eating the Little Debbie in front of Michelle Powers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Couldn't
just too
happen.
embarrassed. My dad grew up super poor. I mean, they go to school and stuff with no shoes on, carry their shotguns to school. It's just craziness. And he said that there was a girl that was real poor and always packed her own lunch. And he said every day she she would stick her head off into her paper sack and eat a corn on the cob.
Why are you laughing about that?
I don't know, dude. Just the visual of it. I mean, I feel bad for the kid, but buttered up corn on the cob was good.
I guess so. So since then, you're ride or die Liefeld. I know you named your dog Rob after Liefeld.
Well, that's the rumor.
Is that the
I
rumor?
I don't know if I should continue this rumor or put it out, but rumor is his middle name is Liefeld.
Is that right?
Handsome, handsome Rob Liefeld Patterson.
There you go. Is it all from that one hot slice, that one great interaction, or what? Or the I guess you got
Actually, old Rob was named from Rob and Big. It was like a MTV show. I never watched it, but when we got Rob, he was named already.
oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Robin Big's a pretty good show.
is it?
Rest in peace, Big. Or yeah. Rest
Rest
in.
in peace, Rob, bro. My dog, he passed away.
Oh yeah, sorry to hear that. My my best interactions are obviously Frank Quietly's always been one of the best interactions I've had. The first time I met him was in 2003, and I was in line with him, and I had like some sample art at the time, and it was terrible. And we waited in line at this Marvel signing in Philadelphia Con, I finally get to meet this dude. He's got like long hair. He looks like a graphic designer or something. Looked like he would do interior design. And someone randomly in line had like a early digital camera, right? 2003. They were still pretty new. You know, they're expensive. Like you get like 32 megabytes, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was talking to this kid the whole time about how this guy's my hero. And I get up there to meet him and I say, sign this book to your biggest fan. And he's like, okay. And he signed it. And I still got the book. It's a copy of JLA 2. And the guys with the camera, I was like, hey, would you take a picture? And he did. We shook hands and there was this bald dude in a
Sure
suit.
sign, by the way, sure sign of a wannabe and not like a collector. You got like a random issue number sign.
Dude, he was not a guest at the show announced. I actually always walked around with JLA Earth 2 in my bag. So I just had it on me, right? And when I had heard on the intercom that he was there, I lost my shit, dude. I was like, I'm waiting in line. It was the Cuber boys, it was a bunch of people, but quietly was there. Anyway, so some dude leans in. Some dude freaking oh dude, yellow flashes in here, crazy. So dude, some dude leans in, the picture while I'm taking it with quietly, and I ended up getting the picture. I got the guy's email, and he sent it back to me. And the dude that leaned in, and I was super annoyed by it. Some bald fuck, you know. It was year like 6 months later, I realized it was Grant Morrison. So Grant Morrison leaned in my picture, almost cut up.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like freaking. I was like, man, this is crazy, dude. Like, what the? I was like, first off, I was like, why is this guy leaning in my pic with quietly my hero, right? And then later on, I realized it was Grant Morrison. So I got that picture framed up in my library room with all my books. And that was the first interaction. The next
Had you
interaction,
seen a photo what Morrison looked like before that?
no, because I was pretty new to comics, you know, and
Okay.
I didn't follow the stuff, you know, and
Oh, typical, typical. You were just getting into comics and thought you could go and get a job and be a comic artist.
I didn't think I could. I just wanted to meet the guy, right? The next time I met him was like in 2014 at the Image booth, and there's a guy that works at Image at the time named he works at Marvel now. His name is Ron Richards, and Ron Richards, the coolest guy.
Oh, yeah, he was with the TV show there for a bit.
Yeah, yeah, Ron Richards, and he's with a couple things. He was an early podcast guy, and he was doing like Google gadgets and stuff, like one of the first people to wear the Google lens, and he would do tech
Yeah.
reviews and stuff. Very sociable, very nice guy, and I'm friendly with him. And quietly shows up at the show, and I was like, dude, quietly's my hero. I got to meet him, you know. And it's a ticketed event, and I get up from my table and I go say what's up to him, right? And Image has a box, like a little mini room around the whole setup they got, and in that room's like a little break room, but it's got a bunch of chairs and tables in it, but really, really cramped, you know. So I go up to the thing and I'm like, Ron, man, where's he at? Where's he at? And he looks at me and he's like, dude, you have to be cool. Be cool. Do not overreact, you know? He says, yeah, I might be going to Tampa. Yeah. Uh Biggins offered me to stay and crash with him and do all that. So I might go do that. I'm waiting for my book. My book's supposed to ship. Axel or John. That's a by the way. I know I realized last time our messages don't actually pop up to the public, but someone asked me if I was going to go to the Tampa show in Florida. It looks like the book should be out relatively in time, and I got Biggins a really close buddy of mine, so he offered me a hotel to stay in, and so I might hop on a plane with him and go. It's a 50-50 right now. We're real close to being done with the printing. So if I get at least my copies in, I'll feel worthy that I can come to the show and hawk some comics. So it should be fun. So anyway, Ron Richards is sitting there, right? And Ron is like, "All right, dude, stay cool, stay cool." And I was like, "Dude, I am not going to be cool at all." And he's like, "Dude, fuck you, Nick." And I'm like, "All right." Open the door quietly. He's there. And I'm like, "Dude," and he doesn't remember our first interaction, right? And he doesn't remember our first interaction at all. And I'm like, dude, man, you're my favorite. His wife is there, and Jane, AJ, and she's like, kind of like smitten because I'm like so big and bombastic. I'm like, I would have been a construction worker if I hadn't found your work. It changed my life. I'm working at Image now because of you. I can't thank you enough. And he's like a little overwhelmed because I'm a big guy and got a loudmouth. And he opens up his sketchbook and a lot of my Scottish artist friends had put him up to drawing Oppenheimer for me, but he never got around to it. So he opens up his sketchbook, and it's all my artwork. Like he got like 2 issues of Manhattan Projects, and he tore the reference out. So he's got like a little.
What a
Yeah,
psycho, dude.
so it was like to me, it was almost like a, hey, look at this. I fucking, here's your torn up comic book, but he's trying to tell me that he's going to draw me an Oppenheimer. But he slowly opened his sketchbook, and it was just like torn up versions of my comic. And I gave him a hug and told him he's the man. And that was it for that one. And then the last time, well, we actually talk on Skype sometimes now, which is cool. We actually talked the other day, but the last time I was going to a show in Scotland, and he invited me to a studio, and I tweeted that out, that video. If people want to see it, it's on my Twitter, Nick Patera. But it's probably my last tweet. But people were basically all talking about like what their positive interactions were. And man, when I got to meet him at his studio, we got beer together, we got pizza together. He wouldn't let me pay for anything, and let me buy some art from him. Just the coolest dude.
Oh,
And
the old Liefeld pizza trick.
yeah, that's what it is, man. The pizza trick, dude. So my one of my favorites is Quietly. He's always been a gentleman. He's always put up with my manic, excitable energy when I'm around him, and he's just the coolest guy. Just the coolest guy. And then who's your next one? We're gonna do two apiece, and we're gonna get the heck out of here.
Dave Finch. And, talking with other pros, there are a lot of stories that are almost exactly the same about Dave Finch. I was leaving the convention, saw him in the hallway. You do what you do. He was, hey, Dave Finch, Dave Finch, Dave Finch. Big fan. Love your art. Want to look at my portfolio? Like, that's like first thing on his mind that he wants to do. He's like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. Let me look at it. And we went over it for like 10 minutes, and he pointed out all the drawings he liked. And they, I don't know why, but it seems like every time that I've had a portfolio review, they ask me my age.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm 52. He's like, oh, okay.
You said you're 52?
No, 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 no. I think I was like 26, 27 at the time. But evidently, he's done that for a lot of people. Like spend time, off the beaten path, reviewing the work, and it was a real confidence booster, definitely. Especially after showing the portfolio all that day and getting rejected over and over again from
Yeah.
companies that aren't even around anymore, like Devil's Due, Ape Comics, or I think that was the
Yeah,
other
Ape Entertainment,
one. Ape
Devil's Due.
Entertainment.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
those guys. I remember that level of guys. They were always the rates were never good, and I heard they never paid on time anyway, if they did at all. So you might have got.
Yeah, that's all of them. I don't know. I don't want to go down a dark path on that.
Oh yeah, we're
But
saying our positive light. This is
yeah,
positive. We're positive YouTube. We're the positive.
everybody paid on time.
My other one, which I talked about before, was actually it was Ethan Van Sciver. He was the nicest guy, and I've told the story once before, but I'll recap it. At the time, CrossGen was really big. I went up to the Kubert School. I couldn't afford it, but I had visited and ended up staying with a buddy on Mountainside Drive up at the Kubert School, and there was about 5 other aspiring professionals going to the school at the time in the
I
house.
never get a clear answer on this from you. How long were you there?
A semester, a little short of a semester. So I came up at Christmas. I guess it's a long story, but I came up at Christmas time. My buddy did not tell, and my buddy gave me his key because he lived in Houston. He's like, take the key. I'm going to be up there like in a week. And I said, cool. And I said, and I told him, I was like, you told everybody I'm going to be there, right? He's like, oh, I'll tell them. Dude, I go there. First off, I'm like a fish out of water. And we got to go from New York to New Jersey. We have to get a cab, and it's $100. And the guy in the cab's just like a stoner, right? And he's like, hey guys, you want to get high with me? I'm like, dude, I'm not getting high with. I'm like, I'm not doing this. And I'm with a couple other buddies who are just there to go like the TRL live and a bunch of stuff in New York. They're not comic book people, but they bought tickets back like in 5 days. I bought tickets back like in March, like that kind of thing, right? And my flight back was in March or so, half a
You
semester.
got you had the okay from your buddy, or did you just like hoodwink him into this, or what?
Dude, no, he said, yeah, come up for the last semester in 2003. So I show up with 2 other friends that do not live in this house. and this guy's trying to get us high, and I'm like, "Nah, man, trying to act cool, but we're not that cool, right?" And and then I'm thinking like this guy might be like a crook or like I'm like suspicious of everybody as this small town.
Oh, dude, you're gonna get sneak dicked right there.
Yeah, I don't want to get sneak dicked, right? So I'm like, dude, this ain't. So what I do is I'm like, oh, all my buddies are at this house. All my buddies are at this house, and this is New Jersey in like the day after Christmas, and so it is snowing, and I've never dealt with snow, but I'm like, yeah, yeah, my buddies are there. My buddies are there. So he knows we got a bunch of dudes. It ain't just three of us. So don't come bringing your gangbanger buddy, your pothead buddies to come beat us up, right? So I'm like, yeah, yeah, I got all my friends there. So he's driving, he's driving. He gets us out there, and he's like, he looks at the house, and he looks back over his shoulder at us, and he goes, "Do your buddies never leave the fucking house?" And I said, "What?" He's like, "Look at the snow built up on this house. They were all gone for Christmas." And clearly, like no one had scooped the drive, and I didn't realize that. You know what I mean? He's like, your buddies clearly ain't at this house, bruh. You know. So we get to the house, and that night, we're like, we get in, and we're like nervous about this dude. Now this guy knows we're by ourselves. My buddy lived up in the attic of this house, so we go up in this crawl space, kind of Anne Frank style. It's like we're in the attic. It's all like a T. We're all hung.
So, is this place part of the school? Is it part of the dorm or what?
No, after the first year, they want you to move out of the mansion, is what they call it,
Yeah.
and then you got to get your own stuff. And some people lived at like Andy Kubert's beach house or lake house or whatever. They would rent it out to the kids. So we all said, "Screw this! We're going to go up in the attic in my buddy's spot because I don't know the other people there, but I know my buddy lived in the attic." So I go up in the attic with my other two friends, and that you ever see that like Twilight Zone episode of like the Santa Claus showing up with an axe and the little kid lets it in? It looks like Ron Howard's brother is the Santa Claus, and
Mm.
we were talking about it like scary stuff at Christmas, and all of a sudden we cut on the TV and there it is. It's on TV. So now we're like spooked, right? Then all of a sudden, middle of the night, hey, what's up, Julius? Then all of a sudden, middle of the night, about 2 a.m. Boom, 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 knocking on the door, knocking on the door, boom, 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 knocking on the door. And we get like a lamp and a baseball bat, and we all come down out of the attic, boom, 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 boom. And we think we're going to have to fight like gangbangers. I don't know what kind of drug users are. You know what I mean? Like these guys know we're here by ourselves and we're vulnerable, you know? We get there, and it's one of the other guys who forgot his key when he left, and when he left before everyone else, so he was locked out, and he was trying to get back into the house. He was just coming back from his Christmas break, and then turns out my buddy did not tell him we were going to be there, so he got lucky that we were there to let him in the house. But also then I have to explain why three random guys are living in this dude's house and how I wasn't going to leave for 4 months. It was just stupid. I ended up getting a job at Boston Market while I was there and paying them all money so I could stay there. So that's kind of how it worked out. Anyway, long story short, we go into that whole 3 months. I'm working on the same three Wolverine pages. I redraw them probably 6 times. Light because I used to always work over Lightbox. We go to Florida MegaCon. All of our pipes are frozen. We let them drip, and it was so cold in the house that the drip turned into an icicle back into the pipes, right? And
Mm.
in that house, you had to put oil in it, and everybody was broke. So we're like, screw this. And I had my dad's coveralls. He's a construction worker. I would wear those all day, every day, just to stay warm in the house. Space heaters. It was bad. So anyway, here I am, put my life on hold. Dropped out of college, just visiting the Kubert School, and
Dressing like a member of Slipknot.
yeah, just like look like an idiot. I go all the way down to MegaCon. At MegaCon, CrossGen's like the hot thing. They'll give portfolio reviews. I meet Bart Sears, but it's the end of like Sunday or getting close to the end of Sunday. And Bart Sears finally gets to me and he kind of flips through my portfolio, ding, 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 but not opening it up all the way. Just kind of grazed it. And I spent so much time working on those pages. And he was like, yeah, you need to draw 200 more pages before you show this to anybody. And I was like, more, dude. I just spent 4 months on 3 pages. Like you just gave me I can't break until I'm 50. And
Rush.
and I was like, well, what about some constructive criticism? I was like, I'm gonna be chipper about this. It's all good. And when I got the criticism, he was like, I guess that Frank Quietly guy gets away with it. That's what he told me. And I was like, oh man, now them's fighting words, right? So then I'm like dejected. And the one thing I do at all shows, and I recommend this to everybody, is to go to the artist alley and get your reviews from pros. And I go see, and Ethan's doing new X-Men fill-ins or half of it with Quietly. So I'm aware of his work. And I showed up and with to Ethan's table and I was like dejected, man. That was the first bad review I'd ever got. Everyone's like, you got hope, kid, that kind of thing. Like Bart Sears didn't have that in him that day. I think he was just burned out, but
Have you told quietly this story?
not this one. No, I
No, you got to tell him this. You got to start the feud up between them.
I did tell him when I went to the Kubert school and was bragging about him. This was like 2000 to 2003 when my buddy went. There was a redheaded guy named John Alderink, and like everyone's like, he's like, shut up talking about Quietly. Don't talk about him anymore. He kind of lost his shit.
Aldering, that guy colored me.
Yeah, he colors. He colors. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
he
I know that guy.
lived on that mountainside drive house with me. Yeah. He actually built the door to the attic. We called him Redheaded Jesus because he was he's kind of a carpenter. You know what I mean?
I didn't know you went to school with him. How come they
Uh,
never?
I didn't go to
Anyway,
school. I lived in his house for a while. I mooched
he's a
off
nice
of
guy.
him.
I like him.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. So Alderink was like,
Anybody that tells you to shut up,
yeah.
they're
So he
they're
says,
okay in my book.
he looks at me and I won't stop talking about Quietly. He's like, dude, that guy draws everyone like they're made of mashed potatoes. And I was like, oh boy. Oh boy, here we go. And I told Quietly that story the other day when we hung out. I was like, yeah, man, everyone used to tell me that your stuff was made of mashed potatoes, Vin, because Vin's his real name. Anyway, so Ethan is like super cool. I tell him, yeah, I didn't get a great response from CrossGen. And Ethan, in his way, he's like, fuck CrossGen. These are great pages. Take these over to Dark Horse. And I was like, there's a review at Dark Horse. He's like, yeah, they're doing a review at 3:00, right? I was like, all right. I take my portfolio over there, big line. And the whole thing at that time was you wanted somebody's business card. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was Scott Alley at the time. And he was like one of the main editors there. Waited in line. Nobody got a card. I got up to Scott, showed him my stuff. Was a breath of fresh air when I first saw the artwork in the Authority. Amen, amen, Julius. Amen. She said Frank Quietly was a breath of fresh air, just a new look, innovative look. Mobius meets American comic books. Atomo with some Atomo flair in there. So Ethan said, screw those guys. Go show it to Dark Horse. I ended up getting the card. I never followed up with Dark Horse. I just wasn't ready yet. But it was a cool interaction, man. Like it made me feel like Ethan made me feel like,
Dark Horse, you might want to follow up with them.
yeah, one day I'll get there. Um, but yeah, it was a cool interaction. And so like he like rebuilt my confidence for me and made me feel like I was still on the right track after the Bart Sears spear to my heart. Um, and that was like the best pick me up I've had. That's why when people say anything about Ethan, I always have to say he's a very sweet man. He's a very sweet man. I mean,
Very
that's a
sweet.
man. He's a sweet man. What I say about Ethan, as much as I can, well, I just say it from the heart. I'm not trying to put it on, but what a sweet man for him to build a young man back up, pick him up by his bootstraps. Maybe give me a wedgie a little bit and send me on my path and say, you know what, take this to Dark Horse. Took it to Dark Horse. Dark Horse saw something in it. Made me go back home for another 3 years and bust my ass. And oddly enough, to bring it back to Bart Sears, it was about 200 pages of samples by the time I got work. So Bart wasn't wrong. Bart was dead right. I just didn't want to hear that at the time. So fair enough. Um, yeah, those are probably my best. I've had a lot of great travel experiences with other pros at our level, but the guys that are like the generation above, those are the big ones for me that meant something to me and quietly.
Man, getting one of those business cards back in the day, dude, those things, it's just like a Willy Wonka ticket almost.
Oh yeah,
They were
dude.
so coveted.
I collected like 11 of them. I have one from Ape Entertainment. I have one from Devil's Due. I have one from Axel Alonso gave me one when he was a lower editor before he became editor in chief, and he said to me, "You got a lot of raw talent, but you got to learn how to work and make it something." And then he's like, "You're the Kubrick School." I said, "No, but I'm visiting." And he said,
That stowaway.
he said, you have an it factor about your work that a lot of those kids, when I look at their portfolio, don't have. But you have so much work to do that I'm interested in keeping up with you. And then he like reached in and pulled out the card and gave it to me. He's like, but I'm not going to give you work anytime soon. But if you work hard, you got a chance. And that was a good one too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
So
a unique review right there.
yeah, it was like you got something about you, but you ain't close yet. Yeah. That felt good.
Man, I'd have been strutting around if I got something like that.
Dude, I would ride those highs, and that's what I would do too if I was a aspiring pro now or almost there. Is every one of those positive beats like you put in your back pocket, a feather in your cap, and you're like, it makes you believe in yourself. It makes you feel like you have a chance because it's a grind, to make it.
Well, it's just also it means so much too. It's hard for other people to understand. Like once you're in it, you want it so bad. It almost seems unreachable at some point. So you need that the the good advice, the pick me ups, because it's real easy to wake up one day and look at your pages and hate all of them.
Yeah, or like what's
Especially if you're getting better, early on. That's always the case.
delusion is. Me and my wife talk about this because she's a writer, but I always think I'm just about to break in. How'd I get the gig with Jonathan Hickman on Manhattan Projects? Um, Jonathan Hickman. So I started in 2006, 3 years later, after I knocked out about 200 of those pages, started entering contests. One of them was the Wildstorm Talent Search that was held on the East Coast and the West Coast. I decided to go to the West Coast. One was in Philadelphia, one was held Wizard World LA. And everyone had to do this Wildstorm thing. And I was like, this is made for me. I love the authority. They had like who's got Grifter in it and Zealot. Is that Jim Lee's characters?
Yeah,
It was a
that's
script
all
of
guys.
fighting robots, and I was like, fighting robots is pretty mechanical, and I draw very mechanically. So I did that, entered it. You had to show up and be there to drop your portfolio off, and I thought, well, that'll limit a lot of people. So we all go and drop our portfolios off, and then they hold the panel to announce the winner. And that panel, they said they couldn't decide between the judges, but 5 of us were picked, and I was one. So they called us up. They had our name on Comic Book Resources as these aspiring pros, and they let us go home and do an authority script. And I ended up not winning, but I was a finalist in the Wildstorm Talent Search. Later that year, Comic Book Resources held a competition called Comic Book Idol.
I
The year
remember seething seeing names like that go up.
what
I'd always look at the art like, I think I can do better than that.
on Comic Book Idol. So there was like 211 aspiring comic book pros that you had to turn in sequential work. You could see them all on the forum, right? You could see them all. And I thought, like, man, like I'm getting close. I'm getting pretty good reactions, three for the last 3 years, no pro work. But I was like, my stuff is weird enough because I drew like Seth Fisher and Quietly and Mobius and
That was crazy is we were both on those boards at the same time.
yeah.
And because your style's so different, dude, I never would have even thought about looking at your shit.
Yeah, you
Seriously.
spit on my style. Yeah, but it makes
Yeah.
it unique. Out of 200 people, you might be the weirdest one, and so you can find a thing. And so, like, what happened was I entered that, and the way Comic Book Idol went, it was message board based, but it had CB Cebulski, it had Ryan Otley, had a bunch of judges that came on and judged every round. Your art style is the reason why I picked up MP. Man, thanks, Julius. I appreciate it. It's a weird, lumpy style. It's like independent Frank Quietly, Kmart Frank Quietly, but uh, I don't know. I like drawing, and I try to draw my own way, but I'm a product of my influences too. So, what's up, Ink Slayer? Um, so what happened was, yeah, I was one of the finalists of 10, and privately, we didn't know who was picking. We didn't know who was going to be picking we didn't know who the judges were that were like deciding who was going to get picked. And it turned out Jonathan Hickman was one of those judges. And privately, they put bets on all of us. And he picked me, and he's like, Nick's my guy, and I didn't know him or know this. And he had like, let's say it was me and you picking portfolios. Well, my guy's going to beat your guy, and he ended up losing that bet,
So it's
right?
like a Ultimate Fighter competition.
Yeah, yeah, privately, but nobody knew. And he's like, "Oh, you were my guy that I really was hoping would win the competition." And the competition was like you get to do a pinup in an image book or something, right? Well, I get to like fifth place, and you're having to get people to vote for you. It's like 2006 before social media, but it's still online voting, so you're getting like your mom's coworkers to vote for you. It's like a telethon. It's not fun. And I remember pulling all nighters. It was 3 pages a week, sometimes ink, sometimes not, every week for 5 weeks, dude. And I was doing 3 pages in 3 months. So now I'm doing 3 pages in
Dude, that contest was really good for showing you how to be professional, I think, because that was my main takeaway. Holy shit, I got a lot I got to draw.
What's up, Will Bryan? Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, it was like that's a real competition. You have to turn it in at the end of the week. You got to, and you get it makes you figure out your style a lot faster. It makes you figure
Yeah.
a lot out faster. And so I get all the way to fifth place, and I get voted out, and I'm like bummed out. But I'm not that bummed because I like bust my ass for 5 weeks. I got my used my vacation time from work, did all of that to like make this happen, all for this pinup. And then I go on a walk. I come back. I see I lost by like 1 vote for the next round. I was like, cool, whatever. I'm pretty proud of myself. And then that night, Marvel wrote me and said, "You want to work at Marvel on Mojo?" And I was like, "What? I've never even submitted to Marvel.
Still your best work to this day.
Might still be my best work to this day. More
I love
mechanic.
the French fries you drew. That's all I remember from that.
Yeah, so I got a job at Marvel, and I it was the guy's name was John Barber. He went on to work at IDW. He was like their chief guy at IDW, but he was an editor at Marvel. And that guy was like, um, I was like, dude, like this is life changing. This is amazing. It was like, and it literally felt like winning the lottery. Like it felt like
That's the only way I know to describe it, dude.
it's
You,
crazy.
you don't understand how bad, unless you obviously trying to break in, but that desire and that want, and it's not, it is in your control, but it's also not.
Yeah,
Especially then, like you got hired by someone. Now, you can like strike out on your own, do crowdfunding and all that. So the prestige of it is a little lost.
yeah,
Which
but did that email was incredible, and it's like I felt like euphoria up my back. Like I don't know if anyone's ever don't do drugs, but if you ever ate mushrooms on a good experience, it felt like 10 times that. It was like all natural, awesome, felt great, and it was like finally, and you spend so much time looking for acceptance. Like, am I good enough? And to get Marvel to say you're good enough. So I say, John, man, how did you hear about my work? What's going on with this? And he's like, there's this new writer, Jonathan Hickman. And I was like, and he saw your work online. And I was like, well, do you have his number? And then he gave me his number. And I said, well, he's written some stuff. He had written Nightly News. And I go buy Nightly News. And I'm like, he must draw like Mobius. He must draw like Frank Quietly. And the lead character of Nightly News is pie charts, bro. It's all infographics and pie charts. Like it's just
right.
like I'm like, why does this guy like my work? I'm like, why does he like my
It's
stuff?
the antithesis.
Yeah, he's like, well, we're like the opposite, where he's kind of like thinks about the whole story, and I'm living in the panel with the little details, people rubbing their ears and scratching their asses. But
Yeah.
he's like, guy, step back, like the god of a storyline and pick the plot points, right? So anyway, I call him and say, dude, I don't know if you know this, but you changed my life. And he was like really happy and jovial and happy for me. And he loved Seth Fisher and quietly, and there's some of his favorite artists. And we worked together at Marvel. Then we were going to do Manhattan projects, possibly at Epic at Marvel, but but at the time, Marvel Epic was taking a percent that Image wasn't, and nobody was at Image at the time. This was before Saga launched or anything. And he's like, dude, let's go to Image with Red Wing and see how they do and see how we do. Let's just see how we do. And we'll be able to get the cover up previews with Red Wing. Let's just see what we can do with the miniseries. And I said, dude, listen, I wouldn't be in this position without you. I was really excited about Manhattan Projects at Marvel, Epic Line, but we can do this side story about Time Fighter pilots.
Was he able to get you a rate?
It wasn't a rate, man. I mean, I won't talk about mine and Hickman's deal, but we got a good deal. We got a good deal. He gave me Hickman hooked me up to let me survive as a college kid,
Right.
and then I own percentages of
Well,
everything.
still, like you're going into that, not really having done anything close to monthly, right? So it's still a trial by fire.
Nothing close to monthly. Nothing close to monthly.
Right.
So instantly, I get thrown into a monthly. It pops off, and he's like, "Let's do Manhattan Projects in Image." And Image would not hit its golden age yet. Saga hadn't released. We actually launched the month before Saga, and he's like, "You want to do it?" I was like, "Man, I was really hoping to say I work at Marvel, but if you think Image is the way, brother, let's do Image." And sure enough, dude, he was right, man. We got those residuals in. I still get good residuals from Manhattan Projects. And yeah, man, we did 6 trade paperbacks. There's still more, whenever the Hollywood stuff is situated and figured out. But there's still more to that too. But yeah, that's how we work together. And we very quickly started working Marvel style, where he tried to give me a full script, and then I would just do what I wanted half the time. And then we were able to kind of work jazz. He would send me a paragraph, I would lay it all out. He'd go put the words in their mouth. Very, very hands-on, interactive. It was like he said, it's like playing jazz, right? He throws down a bass, I play some treble, back and forth, whatever. And it was a huge.
I've literally never listened to jazz.
Yeah, yeah, me either. So anyway, that's the Manhattan Project story, and that really launched my career. The Marvel work was an anthology. It was Mojo World and Astonishing Tales. Oddly enough, it was because there was a writer strike at the time in 2008, and so the whole thing was Mojo World has a writer strike, so he brings in Cannonball and Sunspot to write Marvel movies, but the Marvel movies are based on, it's like Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction, but instead it's Captain America and Black Widow or something, right? Like it's a gimmick. And so we did that, and the rate was great. And yeah, that made my career take off. I haven't stopped working um, since Red Wing. There was a little gap with after the Marvel work where I didn't get much, and I was finishing school. But once I finished school at 30, and I'm 41 now, I haven't stopped working in comics. So
When you tell people what you do, is is Marvel the first name you list?
Ninja Turtles,
Ninja Turtles is okay, yeah.
because a lot of little kids, like a lot of times, it's because I have a teaching degree in middle school, so it's like, what do they know? They don't know anything, right? But if you tell them you worked on Ninja Turtles, they're like, "Oh, this guy worked on Ninja Turtles," right? And it's like it's an important deal to them, or it makes them feel like you know what you're talking about. And I've done probably 40 Ninja Turtle covers, done a complete issue of
You've done
Ninja.
that many covers? Damn, I didn't know that.
I started doing those connecting covers, and I probably did 5 of those connecting that were 5 apiece, and that
Mm.
adds up quick. So 25 of them are connecting covers. But basically, if I go to a show now, I just say I'm a Ninja Turtle artist, right? Like that's all they know
Mm.
me. Hopefully now it'll be Axfield or John, right? Fingers crossed. If I get a big publishing deal down the line, people will know me for Axfield or John. Um, but we'll see
Man,
what
I'm
happens.
gonna start claiming I've done a couple covers for them.
Yeah, just say you worked on Ninja Turtles.
It's a loophole though. It was for a convention, so there were variants for conventions. But
Still counts.
Ninja Turtle cover artist Tommy Patterson.
Yeah.
I like it.
So anyway, those were my positive interactions in comics. So thank you to the very sweet men in comics: Rob Liefeld, David Finch, Frank Quietly, and EVS. You guys were really great to us. So that's it, Tommy. We've gone on for 40 minutes. I appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, I gotta go get my wife.
Thanks, Will Bryan. I appreciate it, man. The TMT stuff. Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks for listening. We want to get on once a week and to kind of shoot the shit and just hang out. And Tommy's got a really great setup for like a show we could do. Which, if you guys are fans of not that no one's going to do the work, so I'll just say what it is. But if you guys are fans of like PTI, where we run down a list of topics and we both argue with each other, he made that all, you know, awesome, brother. I appreciate it. Axel John all the way. Worst interactions. Oh, good. There's some good ones too for worst. Thanks, guys. But yeah, Tommy did this really cool setup in OBS for us, and he wants me to host it, and we'll get that set up soon. But in the meantime, like every 5 days, we're gonna get on and just talk about whatever. Like I saw that tweet where someone was saying some positive interactions, so I knew Tommy had a couple good stories, and I had a couple good stories, so I figured I'd share them. So, but
We'll be the life of positivity now.
yeah, we're the light of comics now. That's why I keep this close by. We're the light of comics. You know what I mean?
Light.
We're just trying to share the positivity. We don't care about overproduction. We just want to share the light. That's all.
Light.
Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll come back in 5 days when there's some drama popping off. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Tommy, take care, brother.
Bye.